This is higher NAB, Unit 2, Outcome 4, and it's the equation of the circle outcome. We've got 3 questions to answer here, and the questions are out of a total of 12 marks, and you need 8 marks to pass the NAB. Let's go ahead with the question here. We've got question 9. Right, we've got a circle has a radius of 5 units and a centre 2 minus 3. Write down the equation of the circle. So what I do know is that we have a formula list that we'll have, and if I look on the formula list, I've got 2 equations of the circle here, the 2 equations that I know. What I've been given in the question, I've been given the radius, okay, so I've been given the radius, and I've also been given the centre. If I look at the equations that would work best for that, certainly this one here will work best. I'm going to start by writing that equation down. So that equation is x minus a squared. It's going to be plus y minus b squared, and it's going to be equal to r squared. Okay, and the values that I'm going to take here, I'm going to take from the centre of the circle. I've got an a there and a b there, so a is equal to 2 and b is equal to negative 3. And I'm going to just substitute these into this equation that I've chosen. Right, let's go. Get x minus, and I'm going to take the 2, we'll go in here, and I'm going to put in minus 3 in here, squared, and in here I'm going to substitute in the radius, which is 5 squared to there. Okay, so I'm not complete here yet. What I want to do is tidy that up. I'm going to sort out the minus signs that are here, and I'm going to square this part out here. So I've got x minus 2 squared plus y, and that's going to be plus 3, because I've got 2 minus signs together there, and that's going to be equal to 25. And that's going to be that question complete, because that's the equation of the circle. Looking at the next question here, I've got a circle with this equation here, and I have to write down the coordinates of its centre and the length of its radius. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to write down the equation of the circle here. Squared plus y squared minus 2x minus 8y minus 5 is equal to 0. And against that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at the formula sheet here, and I'm going to use this equation here. I'm going to write this general equation out aligned up with the equation of that circle. So let me do that here for you. Okay, so that's going to be x squared plus y squared. It's going to be plus 2gx, and it's going to be plus 2fy plus c equals 0. And what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to match up the 2g, so I'm going to match this part up with the 2 up at the top there, the minus 2, and I'm going to match up the 2f with the minus 8 that's just up above. And from there, what I can say is that 2g is equal to minus 2, and over here I've got 2f is equal to, and 2f is equal to minus 8. And from there, what I can do is I can work out what g is. G is equal to minus 1, f is equal to minus 4. Now if I go back to the formula sheet, again I can see here that the centre will be minus g minus f. So that's what I'm going to use to find out the centre. So I know that the centre is minus g minus f, so just the opposite of these ones up above. So the centre here is equal to 1, 4. Okay, so that's we got the centre of the circle, and now I want to look at the radius. So the other part that I'm going to match up here is I'm going to match up the c value here, and I'm going to match that up with the number that's up above there, and that there is a negative 5. So I know here that c is equal to minus 5. What I've got to do now is to work out the radius. And again, just going back to the formula sheet, I can see in here that I've got a formula for the radius here, and I'm going to use that. So the radius is equal to the square root of g squared plus f squared, and it's minus c. And I just need to be careful with this sometimes when I get a negative value going in there. So let's work this through. Substitute the values in, so g is coming from there, so that's minus 1, and f minus 4, and I've got a minus, and then I'm going to take away c, which is minus 5. So let's gather this up. So I've got minus 1 squared will give me 1, and what I have here is I've got minus 4 squared will give me 16, and minus 5 will give me a plus 5. And if I gather that all together, that gives me square root of 22. When I look at the square root of 22, I can't simplify that down in surd form, so I'm just going to leave that as the radius there. So I now know that the radius is equal to root 22. Okay, let's see how this question is going to be marked. Right, we're going to get 1 mark for working out the this part here. So we're working out this part of the equation, and the second mark will be for getting the 25. So that there is really for working out the radius through here. Don't leave this question here or the answer with 5 squared. Must go to 25 or you lose that mark there. So that's 2 marks. What I'm going to get here is I'm going to get 1 mark for stating the centre. So for all the working that I've done there, for the centre I'm going to get 1 mark, and also I'll get 1 mark for working out what the radius is going to be there. So that's 4 marks so far. Let's move on to question 10. Right, question 10. We've got, what we're doing here is we're going to show that the line with the equation y is equal to 3x minus 14 is a tangent to the circle with equation x squared plus y squared plus 4x minus 36 equals 0. Okay, so let's go about that. Right, for this type of question here, what we usually have to do is use some sort of simultaneous equations, and what I'm going to do is simultaneous equations by substitution. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to substitute the line, substitute y is equal to 3x minus 14. So I'm going to substitute that there into the circle equation. So wherever I see y, I'm going to replace it with 3x minus 14. So that's substituted into the circle equation. Okay, so let's go for that. So I'll get x squared. I can see a y there, so what I'll do is straight away I'll just put in 3x minus 14. And remember the y is squared, so I'm going to have to be squaring that bracket out. I've got plus 4x minus 36 equals 0. Now if I square that bracket out, the way that you can do it is whichever way that you've learned. You can do it out by FOIL, by writing 2 brackets and multiplying it out. I'm going to just multiply it out straight from here. So I'm going to square this term here. That should give me 9x squared. What I'll do here is I'll multiply these together and double it. If I do that, I'm going to get 84, so that'll be a minus 84x. And what I'll do is I'll square minus 14, and that should give me a positive number, 196. Then I've got my plus 4x here, and I've got my minus 36 sitting there on the end. Remember, I'm keeping the 0 in as I go down all the time. I'm not going to lose that. What I'll do next is I'll gather up the terms that I can. So I've got 2x squared things here, so that's going to give me 10x squared. I've got minus 84x, and I've got plus 4x there, so that'll give me a minus 80x. And the numbers here that I've got, I'll have left plus 160, still equals 0 to there. From there, what I could do is I could simplify that down a bit. What I could do is I could divide, or take a common factor out of 10, divide the whole thing by 10, and what I'm going to get there is I'm going to get x squared minus 8x plus 16, and that all equals 0. And that gives me a nice trinomial that I can go and try and solve. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and look at this in 2 different ways. Okay, so I'm going to split the page. 2 different ways. Right, and so one way I'm going to use the discriminant, The other way, I'm going to look at a point of contact. And what you would do is just choose one of these methods, whichever way that you're most comfortable with. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do with the discriminant method, I'm going to say that my value of A is equal to 1, my value of B is equal to -8, and my value of C is equal to 16. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work out the discriminant, which is b squared minus 4ac. And what I'm going to get for that, I'm going to substitute in -8 squared. I'm going to subtract 4 times a, which is 1, and c, which is 16. So what I have here is 64 minus 64, and what I get is an answer of 0 for the discriminant. So I then make a statement that would say, since b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, I would say a tangent exists between, and I'll just state the line, y is equal to 3x minus 14 and the circle. That's a discriminant method. Well, let's go over and look at the point of contact method. So what I'm starting with here is I'm starting with x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals 0. So both of these go from here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to factorise that by putting it into two brackets. So x and x there, and I can see I've got a 4 and a 4. Both of them are going to be minuses from there. What I'll then do is I know I've got x minus 4 times x minus 4, so that would be x minus 4 squared, and that just equals 0. So to solve that, I would get x minus 4 equals 0, so x equals 4. Right, so what I would do is then just make a statement also about this one, and I would say that since there is only one point of contact, and that would tell me that there are equal roots. So I'll just say that tangency exists, and again just between the line. Oops, sorry about the writing here. Between the line, y is equal to 3x minus 14 and the circle. Okay, so that's the two methods that I'm going to use there. And let's see how we're going to mark this one out. Right, I'm going to get 1 mark here for that first substitution. So knowing to substitute the line in there into the circle. So that's going to be my first mark. So that's mark number 1. Mark number 2 for multiplying that all out. And remember to keep the 0 in as you go on. You'll lose a mark if that does not appear. I'll get another mark here for putting it into kind of standard form for me to work out the trinomial, or to factorise. So that's me get 3 marks there. Then what I'll do is I'll look into each of these to see what I'm going to get my marks for. So I'll get 1 mark there for working out the discriminant. So 1 mark here for this. And I'll get a final mark for making a clear statement. Same kind of thing over on the right hand side here for the point of contact. What I'll do is I'll get 1 mark for going to this kind of level here and working out that I've got a point of contact and there only is 1 point of contact, and then a clear statement on what I found out. So there's the marks there. So this is out of 5 marks. 3 marks up here, and then depending on which way you go, 2 marks either side here. Okay, which will give us a total of 5 marks. Let's go on to question 11. And this is the final question in this section of the NAB. Right, so what we have here is we have the point P minus 3 4 lies on the circle with centre -1, 0 as shown in this diagram here. So the point that I'm looking at is this one here. That's going to be P, and that's -3, 4. And the centre of the circle is right here, okay? And that's going to be -1, 0. So that's the centre. Okay. What I've got to do here is to find the equation of the tangent at P. So remember, a tangent is where a line just touches the circle at one place only. So that's the tangent to the circle at that point, and that's the equation that I need to work out. Now, if I can tell you how I'm going to go about that, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work out the gradient of the radius as it approaches that point there. And I'm going to do that by using y minus b, I'm going to use that by using the gradient formula, which is y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. Once I've done that, I'm going to find a perpendicular gradient, because one of the properties that I know is that where I've got a centre of a circle and a point coming out, and the radius coming out to the point, where it meets the tangent, it's at right angles. So I can just flip the gradient over and then substitute this point and the new gradient I've found into the equation of a straight line, and that's what I'm going to do, okay? Right, so let's work out the gradient of the radius first. So the gradient of the radius is going to be equal to y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. Just the gradient formula we're going to go for here. I'm going to substitute my values in, and what I'll do is I'll take the point here first of all. So I've got 0 subtracting 4 on the top, and then I've got -1 subtracting -3. And I've worked that one out there. I've got -4 on the top, and I should have 2 on the bottom. And what that will do is that will give me a gradient of -2. Okay. Right, so what I then need to do, and what I'd said was that now I've got that gradient, I'm going to flip it and get this one here. So I'm just going to flip and change that. And remember, that gradient there is similar to -2 over 1. So I'm just going to flip that over. Okay, so I'm looking for the gradient of the tangent, or the perpendicular gradient. So the gradient of the tangent is equal to, and I'm just going to flip it over, so that's going to be 1 over 2, and I'm going to change the sign to a positive, so that's going to just be a gradient of a half. And I know that's because the gradient of the radius times the gradient of the tangent equals -1, or just your m1 times m2 equals -1. Okay, that's why that's happening there. Right, so what I then said is, once I've found the gradient of that line, I'm going to substitute the gradient and that point into the straight line equation. So substitute, and it's the gradient of the tangent, which is equal to a half, and the point P -3, 4 into, and that's just going to be straight into y minus b equals mx minus a. Right, so remember, this is my a value here, that's my b value there, that's my m, my gradient. Right, so y minus b, which is 4, is equal to a half, and that's going to be x minus, and that's a -3 that's going to be sitting there. What I'll do there is I'll multiply this side here by 2, so that's going to give me 2y minus 8 is equal to, and I'll multiply this side out by the top, which is 1, so 1 times x will give me x, and 1 times +3 is just going to give me +3. What I'll do is I'll just set this up with 2y at this side, bring the x over, minus x, and that's going to be equal to, if I bring the -8 over, it becomes a plus, that's 11. And that's the equation complete there. Let's see how we mark this one. Right, we've got 3 marks for this question here. So I've got 3 parts that I've actually done. The first mark will be getting the equation of, getting the gradient of the radius. That's the first thing that I'm going to get there. That's my first mark. The next mark I'm going to get is for the gradient of the tangent. 2 marks so far. And finally, we'll get 1 mark, and the place that I'll be getting the mark will be somewhere about here. Okay? And it's okay to take that a bit further, but this is where the mark is going to appear. Right, so as I said at the start there, the marks for this outcome are 12. You need 8 to pass. So good luck, and hope this has helped.